Our guest author this morning is a Trinidad and Tobago-born and now Johannesburg-based writer, copywriter and Commonwealth short story finalist Lisa Julien. She's just released her full-length debut novel titled If You Save Me. In this book, Lisa takes us on a quest of finding out the cost of sacrificing oneself to save another and the repercussions that may follow. Well, without giving away too much of the book, let's now welcome its author, Lisa Julien. And she joins us now via Zoom. Lisa, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Simpiwe. How are you?
I'm very well, Lisa. Good to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Now, from your own perspective, Lisa, just give us a short description of what this book is all about.
Okay, so this book, the story follows 5 main characters, which is 4 men and a little girl. It's set in 3 different countries, which is South Africa, the UK, and Trinidad, as you've mentioned, where I'm from.
Yeah.
And it's 5 separate story arcs. You would find that some of them run parallel, but for the most part, they do intersect. I would say that maybe the main and the most central story arc is a surgeon, Dr. Carl Clenans, and he needs to perform a very pioneering but risky donor liver transplant with 2 of the other characters who are, for their own reasons, slightly unwilling. And so even though it's the actual surgery it's a real thing, the actual liver transplant does have to happen. It's a kind of metaphor, really, for the need to regenerate, to redeem ourselves, because each character is actually looking for that. Even our little girl Promise. So it's a story that asks big questions about what would we do to save others, why do we make the choices that we make, and what are some of the kind of push-pull factors that goes into our making choices about our lives and each other.
Yeah. Now, Lisa, where did you get the inspiration from to put together a book about the sacrifice and the cost attached to saving someone?
Well, let me just say, in terms of the actual format first, I've always enjoyed stories and movies that have these multiple story arcs. So I don't know if you recall, I mean, these are quite dated movies, but let's say movie like Babel or Crash, which I think came out in 2006, 2007. These were different story arcs, different stories happening in different countries with different people, but there was always some sort of weaving going on. So, for example, if you had, let's say, like a bullet that was made in India that found its way into a gun in South Central LA and killed a little child, I mean, already that link between the person who made the bullet, the person who sent it across the sea, the person who bought the gun, the person who shot the child, the mother of that child, already there's a story that's linked there. And I love that kind of narrative that seems to be separate, but it's not. So that was my I was coming into it with this idea that we actually are all connected. We are all weaved into a bigger story around life.
Okay.
And when we do that, we obviously have to make choices. And then it's sort of, well, why do we make certain choices about... and sometimes we make choices, we sacrifice for people that we don't even know very well, which is what's happening with one of my characters. So it's a real question around why do we do these things, and why do we not sacrifice maybe for those that we love and that are close to us.
You know, Lisa, there's 5 main characters. I understand there's Carl, there's Joel, there's Cher, there's Promise, and as well as Trevor. Let's talk about the storylines that you delve into in this book involving these characters.
Okay, so Dr. Carl Clenans is our surgeon. He's a South African born, but he is in London at the moment. He is grappling with a secret, but he's grappling with a choice that he made or didn't make way back in his childhood. And him stumbling upon this surgery is actually rubbing against some of those choices that he felt that he should have made, or why didn't he make? And he's been really carrying that guilt for a while. In terms of Trevor is Joel's partner, who is also carrying his own secret, who is also looking for some kind of meaning in his life, but he looks for it in kind of slightly more destructive ways, and that sort of plays itself out. Trevor also has a brother in Cape Town called Bones, and Bones come across as Promise, our other character, little girl in Joburg. So Promise is the domestic worker that lives in Carr's home in Joburg. Is her granddaughter. So Bones comes upon Promise at some point in time. She also has her own journey as well. And the two people who are involved in the liver transplant is Joel, who is an Irish guy, an alcoholic, not very happy with his life, not very happy with how his life has gone, and his estranged son, Che, who is being asked basically to give up some of his liver. And
I'm quite enthralled by his fascination with livers. I mean, there seems to be this longing and the search for something throughout the book, a liver in particular, or a piece of it topping the list. Speak to us about this quest of wanting something, wanting to be saved, and then what happens when some of the characters get what they long for?
Yes, so I think, so in the case of the liver, I mean, somebody asked me about that, like, why not the kidney, why not? And because the liver regenerates, so you just need a little bit, actually, and you make a lot. So what Che is being asked of him is quite heavy, but at the same time, sometimes we do crazy things just because we need to inject some kind of meaning into our lives. Even though you would think, well, somebody has the goal to come and ask me for something like this, to ask me to save them, even though they've not been in my life. But at the same time, it's not a crazy notion, because the things that we do for people and the things that we do to inject some kind of meaning into our lives is usually, it's quite big, So I think on one hand, it's difficult for him to grapple with, but on the other hand, he is really considering it. And the steps that he has taken throughout the book really, I mean, it's a very internal book. It's, I grapple with a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts. So you really get into Che's thought process about why he is thinking or not thinking about doing this.
And this book touches heavily on relationships and personal connections, I suppose. Now speak to us about this and how significant they are to the title, If You Save Me.
Well, relationships are everything. Huh? I mean, what are we doing in life? What are we? Why are we on this earth? Why are we in this world? Why do we get up every day if it is not to connect with someone else, and in a real deep way that actually means something? Somebody asked me the other day, what is your deepest fear? And I just said, it's the daily grind of a meaningless life, Sure. And I think the reason that we get up and we do everything is to try and understand another person. And it doesn't have to be, it's easy when it's our family, Okay. It would have been so easy if Kay and Trevor knew each other and they were happy and they grew up together, everything. But it's much more difficult when it's people that we are trying to get close to but can't, or strangers.
Lisa, we're out of time, unfortunately. I wish we could have all day to discuss this. But great chatting to you, Lisa. It's been an absolute pleasure. And when you said that your biggest fear is living a meaningless life, that really struck a chord. Yeah, but thank you so much for joining us, Lisa. All the best.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor. Thank you, Cynthia Ray.
Lisa Ann Julien was our guest author this morning, and we're just in conversation with her about a debut novel titled If You Save Me.